Pole vault success is determined by the three physicalities. That's height, strength, and speed. Now of these three, speed is the most important. Why is that? Why did Ronaldo Villani win the Olympics? Because of his speed. Sergei Bubka, because of his speed. Eisenbaeva, speed. Now what happens if we take the world's fastest man and have him master the pole vault? How high would he jump?
We are using a 2012 study by Linthorne and Wheatman. The study is called Effects of Run-Up Velocity on Performance and Kinematics. Now this study found something very interesting and very important for our purposes. If we go to figure 2, we see here that run-up velocity observes a linear relationship with pole vault height. Basically, how they conducted the study is they took a woman and observed how high she jumped from each approach she had. What was her run-up velocity? What was her final vault height? They found that as you jump higher and higher, your grip height increases, your push height increases, and your peak height increases linearly. Now our objective becomes to find the maximum runway speed a human body can exhibit. With this, and using that linear relationship, we can determine the maximum pole vault height. Luckily, a young Swede named Armando Duplantis has demonstrated all that we need to know. Let's take his values and calculate the vault height of the fastest man. Mondo runs with a runway velocity of 10.2 meters per second. His most recent world record is 6:30. Mondo also raced the reigning world record holder in the 400 meter hurdles, Karsten Warholm, and won the race in 10.37 seconds. Now that's definitely a solid time for somebody who doesn't primarily run the event, but it's rather average for a professional sprinter. There were 35 men under 10.0 last year. Mondo was number 640 on the list. The Olympic champion Noah Lyles ran the race in 9:79. Just for context, any difference above a tenth of a second will leave you dusted in a 100-meter race. But even Lyles comes up short against the fastest man in history. Witness Usain Bolt. 6'5", jacked, black-bodied, bedecked head to toe in Type X muscle fibers. Some say he's the Messiah of Jamaica. The fastest man in history runs 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. So let's find out, how high could the fastest man pole vault? Mondo is our model for pole vault mastery, so we'll use his numbers for our calculations. Now, Mondo runs the 100 meters in 10.37 seconds. He has a runway speed of 10.2 meters per second. That's his top speed right as the pole plants into the box. This translates to a 6:30 vault. Now, we're going to make an assumption here, and I believe that it's a safe assumption. We're going to assume that 100 meter speed directly translates into runway speed. Why is this safe? Well, how fast you run with a big stick in your hand is determined by how fast you can actually run. I think everyone agrees that Mondo would absolutely dust an inferior vaulter in a 100 meter race. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the fastest man, his 100 meter best of 9.58 seconds. We're going to calculate the runway speed, and then with that, we'll determine his maximum vault height. So let's begin the calculation. We're going to go to Google Chrome, and we're going to use the calculator. Now, Mondo runs 100 meters in 10.37 seconds. What we can do is divide 100 by 10.37. That gives us 9.64 meters per second. Now, keep in mind, this is his average velocity across 100 meters. His runway velocity is faster than that, 10.2. Let's take that 9.64, divide by his runway velocity, 10.2. We get 0.945. Now, keep this number in mind. It's very important. That means that 95% of his runway speed is converted into his 100 meter time. Let's take Usain Bolt's 100 meter time. 9.58. So we'll take 9.58. We'll take 100 meters divided by 9.58. We get 10.43. Now what we're going to do is we're going to assume that Usain Bolt has the same conversion for his 100-meter time to runway speed as Mondo did. So we'll take 10.438 and we'll divide by that 0.945. Why are we divided by 0.945? Well, if you take Mondo's 9.64, divide by that 0.945, that's how you get 10.2, his runway speed. So Usain Bolt's new runway speed is 11.046 meters per second. Now, I believe this is an accurate number. You might say, well, this is 100 meters that we're basing this on. Isn't it more accurate to say pole vault is only the first 40 meters? Yeah, you're correct. However, there's nothing stopping Usain Bolt from backing up more. If he wants to take 50 meters, he can take 50 meters. He can take 60 meters if he wanted. Yeah, his top velocity is typically reached around the 60-meter mark. Other sprinters are around the 40-meter mark, but there's nothing stopping him from moving back. He can move back as much as he wants. So I really think that 11.0 seconds, that's his top velocity as he plants the pole into the box. That's an accurate number. Remember, we're thinking about what happens when the fastest man in the world has complete mastery over the pole vault. One small side note for the physics fanatics out there, yes, pole vault efficiency decreases with increasing speed, but the kinetic energy available to move the pole to vertical increases quadratically with increasing pole vault speed. And so the two kind of balance each other out, and you see this linear relationship. I have an entire video dedicated to the physics of pole vault, releasing next week if you are interested. Now that we have the runway speed, let's determine the maximum vault height achievable by a human. In this study by Linthorne, we see that the athlete's peak height increased at a rate of 0.54 meters per 1 meter per second increase in run-up velocity. In other words, the linear interpretation has y equals mx plus b, with m being 0.54. So let's use that value of 0.54 and calculate Usain Bolt's maximum vault height from his runway speed. First, we have to calculate what our b will be. So let's take Mondo's 0.54 times 10.2. We get 5.508. Now we're going to have to subtract his maximum personal best of 630 minus that 5.508. We get 0.802. That is the B, because Mondo's model is at 0.54 times his maximum runway speed, 10.2, plus B, 0.802, will return 6.3. And we'll give him 6.31 because he's going to break the world record again. Benefit of the doubt. All right, so Usain Bolt's new maximum PR is going to be 0.54 times his runway speed, 11.0, plus B, 0.802. Also, Usain Bolt is taller than Mondo. He's 6'5", and so the pole angle will actually be more to his advantage. He might actually have a higher B value than 0.802, but for the purpose of this theoretical calculation, let's keep it at 0.8. And we get 6.742. 6.742. That is the maximum height a human being can pole vault. That's really freaking high. That is a full 40 centimeters, more than 40 centimeters higher than what Mondo does. That is pretty amazing. It's amazing to think that there's theoretically possible for someone to bend over Mondo as Mondo bends over Corrales. Hey, thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about what Mondo does to Corrales, be sure to click the video here. Again, thank you for watching. You're a splendid human being. Have a good day and goodbye.